Good evening. Hello, Blue Tinted Glasses family. Welcome to the channel. This is the number one, the best Leicester City Football Club YouTube channel on the internet. Other than vlogs, which of course is the best vlogs are Sportser, Josh, who's joined us. So, but Josh, we'll start with you. Good evening. How are you? I'm guessing you were at the game yesterday. We're going to analyze the game a little bit later, but I mean, just give me raw. What was your feeling coming out from that one?
Yeah, one of them, innit? But yeah, good to be back on the channel, lads. Long time no see. It's been a while, hasn't it? But no, I think yesterday I was gutted coming out the ground. I thought we were down, but since I've watched it back, since I've looked back on it, I do have a slight bit of hope that we can still stay up. That may sound a bit delusional, I know, but yeah, it's so frustrating. It's been the same story every single game. And just watching it in the ground, you can see all these chances, and he just knew they were going to go through. They score. So frustrating, isn't it? But story of our season, really.
It is funny enough that you should say that, though, Josh, because funny enough, doing this, I came to a sort of somewhat similar conclusion. But I will say that I am getting quite often, maybe not criticised, but people are saying that I'm gaslighting people, telling us that we've got a really good team when we've lost 6 times in a row. So I can appreciate where they're coming from. Locks, how are you tonight?
Yeah, still as angry, mate, as yesterday. Yeah, unfortunately, I am on the complete other end of the spectrum. I think I'm just like, nah, it's not good enough. I think I said last night that if we were 10 games into the season, I'd be saying, you know what, there's enough quality here and the way we're playing, there's enough to see that we'll be all right. But now games are running out. Palace, easier game on paper. And after seeing what happened there, I don't have any faith that we'll beat Fulham, let alone the other teams that we have coming up, Spurs, and I think Arsenal's coming up in a few games or something like that. So, I have zero faith. I do think we are all but relegated now, mate, unfortunately.
Well, I'll be honest. If you look at the fandom today, that I think is the general consensus amongst the fan base right now. Evening, everyone who's joining us. It's a really good comment, I think, from quite early on. Sandeep, evening, lads. I pray and hope we are not the new Burnley. I think if we can get 2 to 3 more players, then we might have a chance. I think that's a really good comment to keep in the back of your mind because, what happened with Burnley is they came up, they tried to play pretty good football, and it didn't end too well. And I think there is an argument to say that maybe that is something that we're guilty of. I'll come to some of the other comments in the end. Locks and Josh, do please feel free to star stuff that we can come back to. Also, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I have got a tendency to ramble like a maniac. Locks knows that. But without further ado, let's try and take a little look through match analysis of Leicester City 0, Crystal Palace 2. So I always start with the stats, and I think this is kind of Josh's point as what you might have said now that you've sort of had a few hours to sleep on it. Because if you look at the stats, what you'll actually see is the game was pretty even. Really, if you look at these stats, it looks like we should have got something from the game at minimum, right? But we didn't. And we didn't even score a goal, which is depressing given that the XG was pretty close. The big chances were pretty close. I think here's the really telling stat that I think is kind of going under the radar. We had 21 shots in this match. Palace only had 9. Doesn't matter though. It doesn't, this is why I'm gaslighting our community because I'm saying, oh, look how good the stats are. Mate, we lost 6 losses in a row. I get that. But I try and be objective on this channel as well. Of course, I have my own opinions. Just like arseholes, everyone's got one. But I think when I try and do the analysis, I try and look at it in an impartial way. And I've even said positive things about Steve Cooper on this channel. Not many, but I have. And I've given him the kudos when he's deserved it. And it will be the same for Rude. So here was our lineup and a formation. And I think a lot of people were pretty pleased with this because I think people really wanted to see Buonanotte and El Canu start together. That's probably our best offensive and creative sort of pairing. I think Fast instead of Cody, some people will choose column A, some people will choose column B, but I think Fast did have a very good game against QPR, not just for the goal. And I think you have to say in this game, he actually had a pretty strong game. I think when we did the match ratings, he might have got the highest rating, believe it or not, him or Bilal. It admittedly was a 6 out of 10. But that's better than some people on the team. As for Palace, I think this is probably where Locks will quite rightly feel a bit aggrieved because I don't necessarily think that this was their strongest lineup. So Trevor Chalobah had gone back. Their back three is pretty good, but Jefferson Lerma, he actually went off injured, and Will Hughes, they were missing Adam Wharton. Decore came on. So, I think there was something they could have had a slightly stronger lineup, I think. So maybe we didn't take advantage of that. So let's get straight onto it, the first half. And let's just get straight down to it, lads, because this was apparent right from the beginning of the game. Jamie Vardy is the GOAT. He's probably my favourite Leicester City player that I've seen in my lifetime. I do love Muzzy, is it? But if I had to choose between the two, I would go Jamie Vardy. I don't think we'll ever have a striker as good as this one. But the reality is that we needed to replace him a long time ago. He should be the guy coming off the bench right now, not the one starting. And he is starting. And unfortunately, this game, I think I'm going to have to reload my slideshow here. He had both, it's a bit annoying because Vardy basically did some things that were really good. But unfortunately, the one thing that he needed to be good at, he didn't do. So I'm going to show you that. So here, right from the off, 46 seconds into the game. And something that was one of the reasons why we were really good in the first half is that we really pressed Palace quite high up the pitch. We stopped them from building up and it gave us tempo of the game. So you can see El Khanous has got the ball. He's going to try and find Buonanotte here. They actually end up sort of recovering the ball, Palace, but you can see that Buonanotte doesn't give up. I think this is why Rudi's put him into the team and why he didn't early on. He wanted him to be a bit more aggressive with his defensive work. So you can see the two of them are hunting in packs. They're trying to interrupt Palace and they manage to get the ball. Buonanotte gets the ball and he puts this great sliding pass. Like even though he's on the byline, gets it through to Vardy and Vardy goes for the shot. He moves across and kind of deals with it. But this is still a chance. I think he's gone for the finesse finish here, where actually he probably should have gone for a Daka-style smash and try and hit it up here or here. This is a difficult opportunity for sure, but it was a sign of things to come. So about a minute later, Wout Fast picks up the ball here in the right centre-back position. He goes, you know what? Screw it. Sometimes you just got to go long. He used to go for this pass with either Fatawu or Mavididi, and he goes over the top to try and find Vardy. And it's a great pass because Palace have stepped up. Vardy's timed his run beautifully, and he's in behind. Gets onto the ball, has a shot, and it just goes wide. Decent effort, decent run. But do you remember that goal he scored against West Brom when Mahrez put the ball over the top and he got the goal of the season? So we know he can do it. But I will say that's a very hard opportunity. So these two are not the worst. We're going to get to the bad ones in a minute, though. A little bit later on, here we get to Vestergaard winning the ball off a rare Palace attack. They didn't have too many attacks in this first half, but he's going to go for his typical line-breaking pass here to bypass midfield. And he does really well. He finds Mavididi, who gets to the ball first. Mavididi had a strong first half, faded a bit in a second, manages to beat two men who try and press him, and he wriggles free. And now Vardy's on the run. So Mavididi comes through, and I think something that I've been critical of Mavididi is sometimes he's not the best of that delivery with his final ball, but I think he's improved this quite a bit under Ruud, and he puts a lovely slided pass into Vardy, who it turned out was onside. And look, when you're in this position, you're thinking Christmas has come early, lads. This is the GOAT one-on-one. How many times have we seen it put it away? He's through on goal. But for some reason, he goes with his left foot. I'm not sure. I think he should have gone with his right and try and curl it round. Well, whatever. At the end of the day, Henderson's made a save. But that was a fantastic opportunity. And I just feel that if we'd have got that goal for 1-0, my opinion, we win this game. But we didn't. We didn't get the goal. And anyway.
I was going to say, that was very similar as well, wasn't it, Josh, to the Ruud's first game, right? That the first game under Ruud, 2 minutes into the game, where I think it was Bilal that time played in Vardy. And do we know, did he take it with his left or his right?
No, he took it with his right foot there. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I was hoping he would do. You should. Yeah, because I personally think if I was going to coach this, especially from this position, you want to drag the keeper one way to maximize the angle. I think he's got time to do it. But look, you can't really question the goal.
I was going to say, Josh, that's just down to decision making, isn't it? He's made the wrong decision at the end of the day. He's taken it with his weaker foot and he's not scored.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of that's down to confidence. Obviously, Vardy, we all know how good Vardy is, but I think he's snatching at shots a slight bit now. In the last few games, I saw a stat on Twitter the other day. He's had so many chances in the last few games, and I think he is snatching at it. I think, he tried to smash it really towards Henderson, and it obviously looks good if it can go in. But I think from there, you just got to go low, hard into one of the corners, or just like Anil said, just like he did against West Ham. And that's the thing. If we score the first goal, I think it's a high chance we do get the win, because the confidence was there. The crowd would have gone up. There's chances beforehand. I thought Palace would have been in a difficult position, but we don't. And look what happens.
And Anil, because you do so much analysis, you'll probably have noticed this recently. But I did see a stat. It might have been 2 games ago that said since Ruud van Nistelrooy came in, Vardy's had his most shots per game for 3 or 4 years under Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Lux, I'm going to show you 5 in my analysis alone. That's what's a bit terrifying, right? And they're all pretty good chances. Look, on another day, he could have had a hat-trick, right? But he didn't. Exactly. All players can have an off game, but when you've had 5 losses and you're in the relegation zone, you need... I mean, this is my point. I've been saying all along. I mean, we'll get to it at the end of the show, but it's like, I don't feel we have the difference maker right now where other teams in the league do. And in the past, it would have been Vardy. So here's another chance that he has. Again, later on, Mavididi doing some defensive work here. He's going to play it to Samare. Samare had a mixed game, but for sure, one thing he's really shown us this season in the Premier League is that this sort of thing. Like, well, actually, he's going to show Vardy's other things. So Wings gets the ball here. He's going to play it into Vardy. Now, this is, I have to say, to give credit to Vardy, what he was doing brilliantly all night. When he was dropping into this false 9 position, so the attacking midfielders can run past him and he's there to link play, he rarely put a foot wrong. And here he gets the ball. You can see this really nice pass to play in Sumare. And the way that he's played that pass means you can get to this position. And this is a great sight. And actually, I will say that one thing I think that Sumare needs to add to his game is he really reminds me of Yaya Toure. If this was Yaya Toure, he's going one way and one way only. He will go towards the goal. Yaya Toure, I think, scored 19 goals one season, believe it or not. But Samari doesn't have confidence to do that. Now, fair play, let's say, so he could drive this way or he could go for the pass. He does go for that safer option. But in this case, it still works out. So he's played the ball to the side. Yeah, because he's thinking, why haven't you driven it or played the pass? Because he's right. That's what he's saying. Again, that's confidence in the team. A top player, you know, because Samare, when he's in this position, no one's catching him. The guy is athletic and fast. Anyway, we'll come to that later. So it's going to go to Mavididi. And now what I will say, though, is keep an eye on Vardy. So Vardy here linked up the move, right? But now look, just a few frames later, he's in the false 9 position, but still the quality of a good striker. He's here. Mavididi, this is magic. 2 men, and he thinks it through past both of them, beats them, and now he's going to go for the cross. It's going to come to Vardy, and now Vardy's here. And again, you look at that. I've seen him score this goal before. I will say again, it's on his left foot, but he misses it. And again, you're just thinking, the thing is, though, is you're watching this game, you're thinking, we're playing well. We're playing well. We're making opportunities. That's quite a few good opportunities there. We're going to keep going to it. So, yeah, those were some of his missed chances. There's another one in the second half. And, of course, the one where he was 1-on-1 was the one he needed to finish. But what he was doing, which was good, is he was doing a lot of this. So here he is in this sort of false 9 position again, allowing some of the attacking midfielders to go past him. He gets the ball. He's under pressure, but he plays the ball here to Wings. He was doing this all night. And this, to be honest with you, I can see is why Maresca picks him over Daka and Cannon, and is probably why Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to pick him. Because the point is that even if you're not scoring, this is kind of like what Bobby Firmino used to do for Liverpool, where Bobby Firmino used to score maybe 12 to 14 goals every season. Mo Salah would score 30, and Mane would probably score 25. And he was unselfish, and he was doing the work to help those people play. Here's another good example. So Vestergaard again. He made a mistake for the goal, which we'll get to. But here again, what's his trademark? His trademark is the line-breaking pass to break midfield. He does it, and who does he find? He finds Vardy. And again, this is a pretty finesse touch. He's just doing this first time, and he manages to find Booba and get us moving up the pitch together, and you've taken some players out of the game. So he's very good at doing that, and it's something he's worked well with Van Nistelrooy. And as you're saying, Locks, the point is by linking play early on in a move, it's meaning he's getting more shots at the end of the move. So we're going to get to that at the end of the analysis, but that is objectively something that Ruud has improved. At the end of the day, though, we still had fuck all to show for it. Sorry, it's not past the watershed. I don't know if I'm going to get banned from by Locks for next week's analysis. We'll see to it. And
it's
so
shit.
So in the first half, though, all right, fair enough. What about Palace chances? And here's the thing: Palace only had 1 chance in that first half. And the chance was pretty fluky. So Stolarczyk gets the ball. He plays the pass over to Christensen. It's going to come to him. Now, fair play. Sarr closes him down and sticks out a foot. But this was like the most fluky ricochet I've seen in a long time, because it just ends up coming from there, ricocheting off Christensen's boot. And it almost looked like an almost, I don't know, peak Toni Kroos, Zinedine Zidane through ball to Mateta. He gets onto it. But luckily, this particular instance, he doesn't have his shooting boots on and he missed it. But even though that was actually, I think it did count as a big chance for Palace, what I'm saying is they didn't generate it. It was, okay, yes, they have pressed Christensen here, but it's not like they've then got it and then played in the cross themselves. It's just, you know, lucky ricochet. So my point is that in this first half, again, we were doing good. We've generated lots of opportunities and Palace haven't really created that much. And the big reason for that, and this unfortunately is we didn't do in the second half, is high press. So I did mention when Ruud van Nistelrooy would come in that what he would do is he would press, but unlike Cooper got this wrong, is he would compact the game down one side of the pitch. So here's my example of that. So Palace are trying to build out here. You can see that 3 players have surrounded him. Vardy's also watching this shadow pass. If he tries to play it here or to the keeper, Vardy can cover it. You can see Buonanotte is covering the pass to one of the number 6s as well. And so the player that we're leaving to be free is Guehi here on the other side. But the thing is, this player here, I mean, if you're trying to pass it to him there, that's not a smart thing to do. And by compacting it down one side of the game, it makes it very difficult for this defender because you've got the byline here as well, which kind of acts as an additional defender. So many teams do this, but you can see because you've got high up the pitch and we're playing this way, it meant that Palace couldn't really get out. And in this example, what ends up happening is he ends up playing it long, and that means Wout Fast says, oh, thank you very much, mate. That's easy for me to deal with. We can look how high we can push, and it means we can keep the game in Palace's half, and we continue the pressure. So at the end of that first half, that was actually a very good 45 minutes. You can see our XG. We should have scored a goal in that half. You can probably imagine what opportunity that came from, although it's a culmination of all the chances. We had 11 shots. Palace only had 4. Yeah, they had one big chance, but they got lucky with it. We'd forced Dean Henderson into 3 saves. Stolarczyk's just watching the game, probably feeling a little bit bored. And basically, we were very good. And just the frustration is that when you're at the bottom or near the bottom of the table, you've got to take advantage of those opportunities when you're on top, because I don't know about you, but I felt that Palace were pretty poor that first half. And I wouldn't say we were exceptional. For example, I don't think we were as good as we were against Man City, but that was a pretty good performance, and it was just missing the goal.
Definitely.
Go on, Josh. Go on, Josh.
No, I was going to say, I think that was a brilliant first half. And that's the reason why I do hold a bit of hope. But I know everyone keeps saying it the last few weeks, performances. For the 45 minutes. We'll come on to it, sure, in a minute. But second half, we didn't press. We didn't play the long balls in behind. We didn't play the balls into Vardy. There was absolutely nothing. And obviously, Palace stepped it up. But I thought Palace were really poor in that first half. And just like Anil said, you've got to take advantage of that. With the chances we had, and no, exactly, it is good performance, FC. But I'd rather us have an element of a good performance than not. Because if we play like we did in the second half in both halves, I'd say we're completely finished. But that's the reason I'm still holding on to a slight bit of hope.
Yeah, so let me move on to that. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that, Josh. So the reason why I think we were good in that first half. So here's my analysis. I think the high press stopped Palace from getting going. I think we were very skillfully playing through the lines. Vestergaard doing that particularly well. And Vardy was linking the play when dropping back as a false 9. We restricted Palace to just that one chance, which came from a fortunate ricochet. And we made several chances. But we didn't capitalize when on top. And that is a crime at the elite level of football, because in the Premier League, it's rare that you're going to completely dominate a game for 90 minutes. So when we move into the second half, here was the noticeable thing. Our pressing game wore off, and it wore off pretty quickly. Now, in this example, we are actually going to win the ball, but compare this to the previous example I showed you in the first half when we were right up in Palace's face and we had 4 people around the ball. We stopped doing this. Now, I will say, right, that like pressing is difficult. You're going to get tired. And I would actually encourage you to try and just do the distance that these Premier League footballers do in 90 minutes without even having the ball at your feet, i.e. just do the distance. You would be pretty surprised how far they run, right? It's, especially with all the twist, turning, stop, start. So it does tire you out. Right, so in this example, we're only pressing with 3 rather than 4, but fair play to Bilal, and this is something that I do like about him, is that even though he's a creative player, he will stick his foot in and he manages to win the ball back here. But you could see it already, and this meant that Palace, for the first time in the game, they started getting a bit of control and started putting some play together. And what's really sad is that they've only done it for, let's say, 5 minutes, and they managed to get a goal. And even worse, it was their first shot on target. So here we can see that Chris Richards has got the ball playing in the middle of their back 3. He's going to try and find one of their double pivots. I think that this is Decore. He's come on. He's going to get it. He's being chased by Buonanotte, but he turns back to kind of give him the shimmy. He's going to play it into Ismail Assar, who's actually playing as a kind of number 10 for Palace these days rather than winger. Sarr is going to pick it up. And again, here's some other things to look at, right? If we're playing the mid block, like why is Sarr able to get the ball and he's got time to pick it up as well? We're backing off a little bit too much here, and you can't do that early on in the second half. We need to set the tempo, we need to put him under pressure. So Sarr again, a clever turn back. He manages. To be fair, right here, Mavididi has gone in to try and challenge him. El Khanous is trying to team up, but he's managed to beat both of them, and now he's got the time to slot a ball through here. Mateta's going to make the run. We'll talk about Vestergaard's positioning in just a second. He's going to slot it through. Now here, I think is the really good shot, right? Because this, I think, is a little bit unforgivable, right? Mateta is strong, but Vestergaard is literally taller than him, right? And he's got out-muscled. He's been shoved. Both goals, we lost the physical duel. Mateta gets it, and fair play, you've got to say it's a class finish, right? Because he doesn't just poke it in first time round. He keeps his composure, rounds the keeper, and slots it in the back of the net for 1-0. And like I say, so what went wrong here? So if you look at the back line here, if we were trying to play him off, Vestergaard has not in the same spot as these two, maybe because he's wary of his pace. That's something that Andreas mentioned. But even if, you could say fair enough, though. I mean, look, then I'll fast forward it a frame. So here again, if he'd be in the same positioning as well, Faz, or even Victor Christensen, he'd literally be offside, right? So he's playing him onside here. So that's mistake number one. And then mistake number two is here. This is a bit, like I say, he's just been shoved off the ball and Mateta's done it. So it's a bit unfortunate, but you know what? To be fair, I have seen this said by many people that, like, yes, Vestergaard was good in the championship. He was in the team of the season, but was that his level? Could you say it's his pace? Maybe. You could say it's his positioning here, I would say. But, you have to ask, right? Because you could be playing Caleb Okoli here, right? Who's supposed to be signed because he's faster and a bit stronger. He might not be able to make the line-breaking passes as well. But look, it's just the reality that Vestergaard now, he made a mistake against Villa when he headed it to, Ross Barkley. And in this game, again, if the game is in the balance, right? If we got the first goal, maybe we win this game. Instead, Mateta puts them 2-1 up. And here's the stats. This is just like what's really gutting when you're near the bottom of the table. We've had 11 shots, 3 on target. That was their first shot on target, but that's the score. It's 1-0 Palace.
Very bad. Just one more thing, Anil, that I do keep seeing about this back line. I don't know if you agree, Josh. I mean, all 4, right, of them players in this back line that many people deem as our strongest back line, they were all here during the last relegation. They didn't all start together very often, but they were all available at the club. And that, for me, it just shows how unprepared, really, for this season we actually were. I know we signed a Coley. Why
is he not playing, Locks? If we signed him, why isn't he playing?
Honestly, mate, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's worrying because... like I said, it shows how unprepared we were for this season. The fact that the back line that started the season and are still playing now were all at the club when we were relegated. And, fair enough, when you drop down to the championship, you probably can't improve the back line because, you're not in the Premier League, so you haven't got the pull. But when we got promoted back to the Premier League, I mean, and people have been so vocal with me on X recently when I dared to suggest that Ben Godfrey improved our back line, but I stick by it. I really do stick by it.
Well, that's what the stats would say.
Yeah.
Go on, Josh. Yeah.
How many times has our defence been? There's always seems to be one player. I felt Christensen and Justin yesterday weren't actually too bad, but how many times have we conceded goals where one of the centre backs is too deep? He's done that quite a few times this season as well, and it's just basic stuff, isn't it? I know Mateta's fast, he's powerful, but all Vestergaard has to do there is step up, and he's miles offside, and it forces Stolarczyk to come out as well. That Vestergaard's so deep, and it just gives a goal. And just like I said, the stats, it's just so frustrating. I think fundamentally, as a team who stay up in the Premier League, you've got to have a good back line. It's obvious, and that's what Crystal Palace have done for years. Obviously, Palace never really progressed much, but they've got a good back line. They take their chances and they win games, and we're not.
Clip that stuff up. It's going to be going on TikTok, I can tell you, in a few hours' time, because you guys are spilling straight facts. And here's the thing, I don't have a problem if Ruud van Nistelrooy doesn't fancy a Coley, but then as you literally said, it's like if you're coming up and you need to improve that defense, right? You could take the skip money, you can take that Coley money, you can put that together and you can sign a top-class centre-back. Because the last time we really spent a lot of money on the centre-back, it was 30 million plus for Wesley Fofana. He was effing brilliant. He might have left the club in a cloud. We might not like him, but you've got to say he came in as a team and he looked absolutely incredible as soon as he came in. And he only ever had 3 bad games for us when he had that stupid blonde haircut. Who would ever get highlights done on their hair? Absolutely not, but that's who. But luckily, he fixed them, and then, we did well. Anyway, keeping on with the analysis. So here's my point about Palace taking control. So now you can compare these stats to the first half. In the first half, we were dominant. They've started the second half well. We've backed off them with the pressing. They've taken control of the game. They've got 1-0 up. And I will say that something that I didn't like is that after going 1-0 down, we still didn't get control of the game. and Palace were in the ascendancy. And if anything, it was looking like they would get to 2-0. I will give Ruud some credit. I think he did do some stuff to address that, but that's literally how the game was going at this point in time. And the atmosphere, you could feel it was definitely going down. Another thing that's really hurting us at the moment is not just Vardy that's missing chances, but it's the lack of quality just in general. There's many examples I could give, but here was an example of us trying to get back into the game. Fast wins the header again. Fast was pretty good all game. Plays it into Vestergaard. He's going to drop it into Soumare. Soumare then is going to, oops, he's so fast. Look, he's even left the ring that I've put here for the analysis. That's how quick he is. He's going to try and find Mavididi. He's going to slot this ball through. He even finds Mavididi. Now, one thing I don't like is that we haven't got another man up here to try and support the attack. Mavididi, I'd like to see him either drive to the byline or try and bend it in. I think, to be fair, he does drive to the byline. He tries to find the cross, but Munoz gets back and he deals with it easy. And it's like, again, I just feel like if we have better players, or maybe Mavadidi's on better form, he cuts back in, he gets a shot away. We make something of this, because in the end we don't. And here, I think is a very good shot of Ruud van Nistelrooy, who probably sums up the Leicester City fan base when he's looking at this, because this is, as a manager, you're watching the game, you're feeling, it's not going, it's not working this. I need to do something. What's he scheming up? Here's another example of Palace taking control, and they almost get a second here. So again, because we're not pressing them, they've got time to receive the ball under pressure, which they couldn't do in the first half. This means that the double pivot can work together, and we've played it into Will Hughes, or as Luke was calling him, the man who spent 20 years down a coal mine. He might look old, he's got that Ollie Skip look, but he's a decent player, Will Hughes. Here we go, nice line breaking pass, and he's going to find Eze. You don't like it when Eze is picking up the ball in these positions with no one around him. That's danger zone. He's going to play it into his partner, which is Sarr. So you can see they've bypassed our midfield. Sarr starting to get more and more dangerous. He's going to drive forward, and he picks up a really nice through ball here, puts it into Tyrek Mitchell. He gets onto it, and, fair play, actually. Who is this? Is this El Canus, or is it Buonanotte? I think it might be Buonanotte. Puts in a challenge and puts it out of play, right? But again, that's too easy for Palace. They weren't doing this in the first half, but here, because we're backing off, they can pick up the ball. They've got time and space. You give top-level players time and space, and this is what's going to happen. They're going to generate the chances, cut through you, and they're going to put you under trouble. So,
just to jump in quickly, Anil. I think,
please.
Yeah, the press was incredibly disjointed in that move as well. You saw, and then there's so much space. If you go back a few, that one. Look at the space between the midfield and the defence there. Vestergaard's forced out. Then Faz is watching his shoulder, and it keeps going to the right. And fair play, just like I said to Buonanotte, who I thought going forward didn't have his best game, but I thought his tracking back was pretty good in his work rate. But that's far too disjointed, especially for Palace when he got players like Eze, just like you said, Sarr, and then he got someone dead like Mateta. It's just gifting them. It's too easy.
Absolutely. Well, here's a question for you, Neil, because it is relevant to what we've seen and what we're about to see. Vardy said after the match in an interview, he referenced, well, I don't know if it's mentality or if it's fatigue. What do you think it is? Because could it be mentality after a frustrating first half? They've come out and they just maybe given 1% less, right? Which makes all the difference. Or could that full strength FA Cup team sheet have cost us in the end with fatigue?
I find, you know what? Ethan, he's stolen my answer. A bit of both. I agree. I've said this before. I do feel that, like, when you're stressed and your mental state isn't the best, you do tend to be a bit more lethargic, tired, and even get ill. Like, as you know, because I got ill over Christmas. I'll be telling you, I've been quite stressed with my work at the moment. And it's funny how your guard gets lowered and all of a sudden you pick up the illness. So I think it's a bit of both. Whereas, conversely, you get that extra spring in your stride when you're more positive and more confident. But as per Josh's point, man, Josh, we've got to get you on this show more often, mate. There's top tier analysis coming out here, not just a presenter. Yeah. So you're right. And I think the reason why the press is disjointed, I would argue, is because of this, right? So it's the setup. So if you allow a player to do something like this, because you see he's bypassed both Winks and Soumare here. So the thing is now when Eze picks it up, this is the 3-4-3 system, which two managers in the Premier League play, of Glasner at Palace, and now obviously got Ruben Amorim at Man United. Now, the system in itself does sometimes have some flaws, but when it works well, this is one of the reasons where it does work, because you get these 10s that are drifting into the pockets where people can't pick them up. And because you've got two of them, it doubles the problem, and you've got further people forward. So that's what the system does when it works well. We were disrupting their ability to play it into these 10s in the first half, but because we haven't done that in the second half, it's going to generate these opportunities where, we do look disjointed. But we'll move on with that. So very good call out there. So that's a chance. And then, of course, there's one more Vardy Spurn chance just to add to Lox's collection book. So we were still pushing. We weren't creating much. But against Samara, you've got to say he's been involved in a lot of these attacks. If this was Mavadidi, this is never getting played to Christensen in a month of Sundays. But Samare, he's a little bit more unselfish. He's going to play the ball in. Christensen's going to get it. He's going to play the cross there. And to be fair, this is an audacious effort by Vardy. He tries a spin turn. If this would have gone in, it could actually have been goal of the month. And it's not a bad effort at all. But it's probably not the highest quality chance. You can see again here, Christensen needs to play a bit better crossed, guys. I mean, I will say one thing. We've got a lot of people in the box here, so we are going for it, but we haven't quite pulled it off. So anyway,
I'm not that, annoyed. I don't know about you, Joe. That one was, I would call a half chance, if anything. He was surrounded by yellow shirts. There's really not much he could have done there. He's tried something audacious, which we've seen him do, right? He did it against Manchester City. He did it against Germany, didn't he? In the friendly for England. So we've seen him try it before. But yeah, I won't hate on him too much for that one, because I think it was just a bit of good.
That's a low XG effort, you would say, whereas the 1-on-1 is a high XG effort. That's the difference here. But yeah, moving on. So, okay, so Ruud recognizes that he needs to do something. He needs to get some subs on. So here are the changes that he made. So he actually, I got this wrong. He actually went 4-4-2, Brexit ball. The changes he made is he took off both our creative midfielders. And at first I was like, what on earth are you doing, lad? I'll be honest, if you Lock sent me a text saying somewhat similar going, I think it just said, nah, that was all it said. And I couldn't help but laugh. But I'll show you. I think there was some good to it, some bad to it. If it was me, I would not have taken both off. I'll be honest with you. I'd have kept one of them on because I think that creativity helped. But this is the shape that he went for. He went for your bog standard 4-4-2. Daka and Vardy up top. The wingers were Mavadidi and McAteer he chose. And then just the regular back four, which I feel is a bit of a danger with Vestergaard. But look, you got to gamble. And he went for two industrious midfielders. He did bring on Skip for wings. And maybe that's because Skip is a bit more mobile than Harry Winks. So, and what I'll say is almost immediately, the 4-4-2 did make a difference. And it meant that we were going to go a bit more direct, a bit more English, and, try and get something going. So, to be fair, this is because we disrupt Palace in transition, probably because they're not expecting the shape change. But here you can see there's a clear 4-4-2. I mean, admittedly, we defended it, so I might show you a better example in a moment. But needless to say, so this is, I think, now Richards moved on to the right-hand side. He's going to try and find Sarr, but Sarr goes for a back pass, and even the top teams can make mistakes because Vardy's onto it. Vardy gets onto it, and you can see the four of our players here are going to attack and team up. So McAteer is making a run. Daka's on this bike too. Vardy, again, you've got to say he linked play well all throughout the game. He's going to find the pass here and he plays it into a McAteer, and Daka's going to make this run alongside. McAteer's good. He's patient. He could go for a rush shot. Maybe the better option is to try and slide it here to Mavadidi, but he plays it into Daka. And you know what? For Daka, I mean, he has got good shooting power, and I have seen him score from this angle before, but this time round, it's not the best finish, and it goes just wide. Look, to be fair,
just on that, Anil,
yeah,
I was going to say, just on that, you're right. There was nothing too wrong with what McAteer did, right? He was patient and he found Daka, but someone like Facundo, I think, probably would have gone for that ball through to Mavadidi. He would have read it a little bit better, realised that, players like players like Buonanotte, players like Facundo, they kind of think two steps ahead, right? So they would see there that Mavadidi will be in a better position in 3 seconds' time than what Daka might be. So I think that's where you lose a little bit of IQ, through a player like McAteer.
Well, there's some really good comments here that I think will help kind of make the argument. So from Sean James, I don't think there were much other players you could take off, like for like replacements. We're not going to shake the trees. And I think that's fair. I think that one reason why Ruud changes the system sometimes when he brings players on is that if you do want to change, if you started with Buonanotte and El Canoes, who can you actually put on that can do the same job as one of those two players? We know Ayu's not the answer. So that could be one reason that he does it. And another comment here is Vardy linking play well equals not his job. And I sort of see what you're saying. But as Locke said early on in the show, the thing is that Vardy linking play is actually why he had 5 opportunities in this game, right? Which is his job. So I'd actually argue that that's something good that Ruud has introduced to his game. But I do get your point, which is that like you don't care if he has one touch only the whole game, but he smashes it into the back of the net like the Vardy evolved. But I'm trying to sort of, like I say, be objective on both sort of angles here. So look, I'm also going to say with the 4-4-2 is then it was noticeable is that one advantage of playing that way, because you've got two men up top, is that, if in doubt here with Justin, you can just be like, you know what, screw it, route one, let's go long. He plays it long, and now you've got the aerial battle. The ball sort of bounces away and it ends up breaking, and it breaks here. And you can see here this is Daka's actually won the ball here, so fair play to him, and he's going to play it into Vestergaard. Now, this bit coming up is actually quite nice, because even though we're doing a 4-4-2, you can see that what we did under Enzo last season, and this is what Rude's obviously tried to keep carrying over, is the box midfield. So the idea of the box midfield is you've got the one-man superiority, and if you can find that free man, it's going to allow you to generate opportunities. So here we managed to do that. Some really nice sequence. It's gone there to Samaris, to Skip. Skip's going to play it to Vestergaard, and now look, you can see, keep an eye on these Palace players. This is why the box midfield is so good, because that numerical advantage. Can you see they've been dragged out of position, which means Vestergaard can play this pass into Samari. He's the free man. No one's on him. And that means now he can play the bounce pass to Daka, and now we're away. And it's going to generate a chance. And now we can get forward. We've taken a lot of their players out of the game. And fair play, you've got to say to Daka as well, right? Again, he could do something rash, but now he's going to return the favour and he's going to play it into Makatir. Makatir gets the ball here. Now, here, what I would say is just imagine that's Abdul Fatawu. That's what dreams are made of, Josh. That is what dreams are made of. But unfortunately, that dream might have to wait till next season. So Makatir is going to get the ball. Fair play. He's going to drop the shoulder. Again, very Fatawu-esque. And look who's bombing up to join the attacks. It's Buba Samare. So he's going to play the ball in here. And Samare, look at that. That's actually decent techers from him. I want to see that Buba goal so bad. You know that. He still hasn't scored there. Yeah. He's put it in and he's forced the keeper into the save. It's bounced out. Daka's kind of gone onto it, tries to head it back in. Then Palace end up dealing with it. And this move actually continued. So again, you can see that the 4-4-2 playing a bit more direct, it has generated opportunities. So I do understand why people were unhappy with his subs. And I will say that after this, we didn't generate as many chances as we did before. But given the options that we've got in the squad, which I think is going to be the sort of ongoing sort of point I'm going to make here, what can you do given the deck of cards that you've been dealt? And it's like, if you're playing poker and all you've got is like, I don't know, 2 8s and nothing better, it's hard to beat a full house when all you've got is a pair. But anyway, we'll keep going. So we were doing okay there. Yeah.
Again. I think that formation change is good. And it could, I'm not saying 4-4-2 is the way forward, but I think we seriously lack any kind of balance. That right-hand side, I know, because I sit in that top right corner, so I have a good view of it. It's we have no threats. When or not he obviously comes inside to go alongside Bilal in the 10, and Justin, he's a bit tentative to go forward. And in that first half, a lot of our moves seemed to break down. We did well. I think Leicester, if we play the game in the centre circle, we'd win every week, because we work the ball up quite nicely and get to some great areas, but the ball transitions to the right to Justin. It seems to go back to Winks and it's back to the centre-backs, which is all right to retain the ball now and again, but we lacked any drive. And when Makatir came on, I don't think Makatir is the answer, but I just think to have two proper wingers who can run at a man and get a ball in, I think it just gives us a lot more threat. And I think we do need to change the formation to try and suit that. But then again, we don't really have the personnel to do that from the right, which is another issue. But that's my take on it.
Oh, I love it, Josh. Yeah, to be honest with you, I agree. I would like to see a right winger. And do you know what I will say, though? And I think you're right about the 4-4-2 thing. I think more at home than away. But what I will say is that we are still trying to play. This is the thing. You remember at the top of the show, I said that comment about Vincent Kompany and Burnley was very relevant. So they tried to play nice football, but they got relegated. But now Kompany's gone to Bayern Munich. And do you know who's top of the Bundesliga? It's Bayern Munich. And they're actually playing some pretty good football, surprisingly. Because it turns out if you've got great players and you try and play that way, it's quite effective. But the thing is that that's the point. Are we trying to play a style that looks good at times, but at the end of the day, we haven't really got the talent to play it against squads who are better than us? And, to be fair with the 4-4-2 is we've shown in that box midfield sequence that I showed you that you can still have a 4-4-2 and still have high technical quality. Like, that's really good. That's top level football there, even if you're playing a 4-4-2, that you're dragging people around, like if you're talking about Enzo Maresca's philosophy of chess and moving the pieces around, you can see, look, the 4 versus 3, you generate the superiority and we make an opportunity from that. This is really good play as well. So we could do it. And so what I was mentioning on the stream yesterday on the instant match reaction is that Brendan Rodgers, when Harvey Barnes got injured in 2020, what he did is he put Kelechi Iheanacho next to Jamie Vardy, and it completely unleashed Iheanacho. Am I saying Daka will be that man? I don't know. But I think it's something that should be considered, because I don't know, if you keep trying to do the same thing and not get results, is not the definition of insanity? I'll leave you for guys to discuss that at the end. Just a little bit more to go through. So yeah, unfortunately, we were doing okay, but then Palace just finished us off. And I think what's just so terrible about this, they just made some subs before this. It's a simple set piece. And, you never want to concede set piece goals, but I think especially not as crappy as this one, because there's not anything particularly fancy about this. Ez is just going to put a ball into an area. He does it. And you can see that McAteer, what happens? He just gets out-muscled. I mean, look at that. It's not like they've done some really clever training ground routine where, like, for example, we conceded against Arsenal for 3-2 near the end of that game, but they actually did something clever where they found the spare man and they did all this kind of stuff. This is just route one. And yeah, and you can see here, this is best comment is just who wants it more. Smart guy, he gets the goal. And what you've got to do there, especially as you're nearer the goal than him, is you've got to be stronger and you've got to push him up. I'm not going to lie. If me and Mark Guy, he got into a fight, lads, put all your money on Mark. He's going to smash me. He's a physical unit. There's a reason why he'd go for a lot of money. But yeah, there you go. Terrible this. Exactly. That's all you can really say, because it's just, that's your man. The man you got to pick up. You've got to win the duel. That's why they call them duels. You've got to win them, right? If you lose them, that's what's going to happen. The second goal. So that's it. That was the end of it. And then just to compare it, it was a game of two halves. You can see that in the second half, Palace stepped it up. We still had more possession than them, but they made their possession count. 1.4 XG when they had hardly any in that first half. They made 3 big chances. We did create chances, is my point. And we still had twice as many shots as Palace. But again, it comes down to quality and what you can do with it. And look, they did create better quality chances compared to us. So, they did that overall. So that's 6 losses in a row. And just before we get on to the discussion point, so, of course, what's the discourse right now on the Twitterverse and on Blue Tinted Glass itself? And what people are saying, and look, I think it's totally fair, you've got to ask this, is that we sacked a certain manager, and that manager was Steve Cooper. And under Steve Cooper, we never lost 6 games. Oh, the rage in Josh's face right now. I'm absolutely baiting him. So let me say what I got to say before I'm done and you guys can discuss. Right. So what are the reasons for that? So the way that I've tried to look at this, and I do it all the ways, that I'm a fan of this, is to try and be objective, is to look at the underlying data. And you can see this is Anil in Excel spreadsheet, heaven or hell, depending on your perspective and how you're going to look at it. And what I've done here is a few things. I've actually firstly compared the 2 Crystal Palace games. So this is when Steve Cooper was in charge. This is when Ruud van Nistelrooy was in charge. 2-2 it finished in that game. But you can see that Palace actually had 2.55 XG because they really came on strong in the second thing. They had 20 shots against us and we only had 9, right? But it was still a draw. In the return fixture at home, we lost 2-0, but XG was pretty even. They only had 9 shots against us and we had 21. We had almost 3 times as many shots as they did. And looking just like at the underlying data in general, what I'd bring your attention to is in the Steve Cooper era, look at some of this, right? Against Palace, like I said, they had 2.55 XG. The Arsenal, 4.6 XG. No one's had higher than that this season in the entire Premier League. Right, 2 again here. Chelsea, this was his last game, 2.75. The game after Brentford. I mean, to be fair, you can see when Ruud first came in, it was still looking pretty alarming. And what I'm saying he's doing is you can see that he has brought the XG against down quite a lot to where it was at the start of the season. It's also the same with the shots against. So his first game, it's a lot, but you can see it's been lower ever since. And look, these last couple of games, and this is the first game then. What I will say is, again, I don't want to try and, what's the word, influence people's opinions, right? And gaslight them. That's it. I don't want to gaslight. Yeah, exactly, Ben. XG don't get us points. Of course it doesn't. That's exactly my point here, right? Doesn't matter if you've lost 6 in a row. And that's, I think, like the thing that we have to bear in mind here, right? But what I will say is that the issue that he was doing is, I think when Ruud first came in, he goes, I need to fix this defense. If I don't fix this defense, we've got no chance whatsoever. So therefore, I need to stop the opposition getting into the box. I need to stop the shots against. That's the first thing I've got to do. And then when he did that, what you saw is that notably the shots that we had for went down. So it's all well saying that the shots against was going down, but you have to say that Cooper was getting more shots for. But this now, in the last couple of games, you're actually seeing it. We're getting a good balance. Like the Man City one's a good one, given the quality of the opposition. And Palace, what I'm telling you, if every game we play between now and the end of the season, we have 21 shots for versus 9 against, we should actually get some frigging points on the board. But to quote Ben again, these stats don't matter. The stat that matters is who won the game. Palace won the game and they won it 2-0. So what I'm saying is I'm actually saying two things, and I am saying that it is possible that two things can be true at once. And what I'm saying is Ruud van Nistelrooy has both improved the team, and Ruud van Nistelrooy has also made the team worse, because factually, in terms of results, the results are the worst they've ever been, but the underlying data is better. And underlying data doesn't win games. Of course it doesn't, right? But that's what the data is saying. So if you're being objective, it'd be one of those where you can say, I can see what he's trying to do. I can see improvements in the team, and those improvements are actually having evidence, but these improvements aren't doing anything. And that is why I'm saying maybe you do need to question the approach, because we're running out of time and maybe you've just got to come up with something new. And the Great Escape season, we changed our system. We changed it to a 3-5-2, and the rest, as they say, is history. Although we did change it again the season afterwards, and it worked even better.
Just quickly, quickly
yeah.
on the data that you just had up. I don't know how this is possible, but it's actually made me feel even worse, because it shows that we're improving. The performances have improved, but we're still not picking up win. And I keep saying this same thing, Anil. People are going to get sick of it, but they always say teams that play poorly and win, they stay up or they win leagues or whatever. Teams that play well and still lose, they're the teams that get relegated. And that's the way I feel right now, that we are playing well and still can't win. And in my head, that means we're doomed. So, yeah, I don't know, Josh. Does this data make you feel any better, Josh?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I think what's happened is our defense has obviously improved, because start of the season, even Ruud's first few games, just like Anil says, and as the data shows, we were conceding so many shots. I think our defense has improved. Now somehow our attacks got worse, but I'm not too sure. It's annoying because we are creating chances. At the start of the season, we had barely any chances, but we're scoring goals. Now we're creating chances, not scoring, having less shots against us, and still conceding. It's so frustrating, isn't it? But part of me does think it's going to click eventually. I don't know how. That's just like Locke said, though. We can't
Championship 25-26 season. No.
Yeah, maybe that.
Yeah,
that's the thing. We can't keep waiting on these games. The next few games are big. Fulham at home, tough game, but you got to try and get something from that. Everton, it's like so poor.
So let me just add on a few things before you come to it, right? So yeah, here's my match thought. So Ruud over time has brought down the shots against, the XG against, and in recent times, although I want to stress this is only in the last 2 or 3 games, has increased the XG and goal threat from Leicester, because there was definitely a point where he was not doing that, and that was a bit worrying. But ultimately, it counts for nothing, right? It's 6 losses in a row. That's relegation form, and it's major panic stations, right? So when people say they want Ruud out, it's hard to say that when a manager's lost 6 in a row that they don't have an argument to make there, right? Objectively, so I'm saying if you take your opinion out of it, the team is better coached, it is better set up and positionally better, but the results don't show this. And therefore, you can say, well, you can put your XG up your arse, mate, and your positioning and your analysis, because it don't matter. And that's fair. That's a totally fair comment, right? So I'm trying to be, like I say, neutral and objective here. We deserved something against both Man City and Palace, but the lack of goals scored is a major worry. We didn't score a single goal in either of those games, and that has caught up to us. And that is a worry, and why, in my opinion, we should have signed a striker in the summer. And yeah, what is then the major reason why Steve Cooper had a better form than Ruud van Nistelrooy? And you've already seen the spoiler, it's we're going to come up to it. But I'm going to say, this is my opinion, so this is not objective. This is a bit more subjective, but I have got some data to back up what I'm about to say. And the reason I think why we're really struggling, a lot of people will say Wilfred Ndidi, and you have a very good point, but I would go beyond that. I would say it's this guy, Mads Hermansen. Mads Hermansen, in some of those games earlier in the season, was doing things that should honestly be illegal, because that's how X-rated they were. And to prove that point, here is the stats of all of the goalkeepers across Europe. And here in the top right corner, for overperforming, but in a team with a weak defense, is Mads Hermansen, and he's out on his own. And that means that he is overperforming, making saves. Essentially, the team should have conceded more goals, but they didn't, because this player is Jesusing it. So I've been saying that we don't have a difference maker. Well, we do have a difference maker, but that difference maker isn't in the team right now. Maybe sadly as well, you need a difference maker, not just to be the goalkeeper, but he was literally getting us points where we shouldn't have got points in the past. And the data is backing that up. And Steve Cooper had him and Rude lost him. I will say that he obviously didn't know about the Danny Ward situation. And that was a travesty that he didn't know that. And yeah, someone's put he's worth 10 points a season. And I actually think the data might even prove that. I don't know if it's exactly 10, but it could be something like that. He's an extremely good player. So yeah, just going through the results. Actually, the interesting thing is that the results kind of worked for us because Wolves and Everton both lost. So as it turns out, before Ipswich play tonight, we're still, well, given our goal difference, we're 3 points off getting out of the relegation zone. So we still got something to say, but it's 21 games now. And a bit worrying is in the Great Escape season, we actually had 17 points at this point in time, not 14. Although I will say, just to make you feel a bit better, we still I think we were on 19 points after 30 games, would you believe? That's an awful record, and somehow we still got out of it. So it's still possible. So yeah, look, please talk about anything that you want. I threw that together at my lunchtime, so I normally would do. I think that's still pretty good given the time.
Very
I was
good.
given. So much to talk about. I might not be here for all of it, but I think we should keep talking about it, even in tomorrow's show if we do it, Locks, because I think there's a ton to sort of say. And, you know, I think my last point I will say is just that for me, I think it is the squad ultimately. I think this is the thing that, like, earlier in the season, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, you're deluded, or you wanted Cooper out and all this. And I think there's a lot of reason to have wanted him out, right? But I will say this is my bit where I'm trying to be humble. I think early on in the season, myself and Luke, we were like, do you know what? We think our squad is good and we're underperforming because of it. But I think the reality we have to look, I notice I said squad, not team. That's a big difference. Our squad is not that good, right? You can criticize Ruud van Nistelrooy, but it's like when you look at that bench and you go, okay, the players I can pick are Bobby Reid, Casey McAteer, Patson Daka, Ollie Skip. I mean, how good is that compared to other teams that have got way better players than you can pick from? And because we've got key injuries, Hermansen, easily our best player this season. Ndidi, he's got to be either our second or third best player this season. Fatawu, look what he did to Southampton when he actually got back in the team. He destroyed them, right? Ricardo, to be fair, we don't know. You know, maybe he wouldn't adapt to the Premier League this season as well, but last season he was pretty good. So at least three of those players, they would definitely be in the first team and they're not playing. And a team like us, maybe you can afford one of those to be injured. Maybe even two. Three, can't. Not unless you replace them. And the summer activity wasn't good enough. So I'll shut up now. I want to hear what Josh has got to say. You talk to me.
No, I think you're spot on. And I think that the people saying that Cooper, that we shouldn't have sat Cooper, you've got to look at the team. I believe if we had Fatawu on that right-hand side, we would look so much better. Because just like I said earlier, there's barely anything coming from that right-hand side. And teams will probably look at Leicester when they're preparing for the game and go, all we have to do is keep Bilal, keep Steffi quiet, and you're probably halfway to a win. Because despite the fact we are creating chances, I think do we have 2 shots on target or something yesterday? We are having a lot of shots, but again, we're not putting them on target. And I think I come back to what I said earlier. I think we do need to change something up because yes, we are improving, but sooner rather than later, there comes a point where you've got to change it, especially away from home potentially. Just go a bit more defensive. Have 2 wingers who can go on the counter attack, and it's all well and good playing this nice football. It's great to watch El Kounouz coming in, flicking it around to Buonanotte, playing it to Mavididi, but sooner rather than later, you've just got to dig in, sit deep. And to be fair to Cooper, that's probably one of the reasons why we did get some results sometimes. Despite the fact we conceded so many shots, I think defensively we did sit in a bit deeper at first. And obviously back then we had the likes of Abdul, Steffi out wide to try and propel us forward. But I think to put it simply, the reason why we are struggling right now is just to miss players. And that's an easy cop-out. It's an easy excuse, but it is the harsh reality. You know, it's half of our best players. The wins against Ruud we had, or the wins with Ruud we had, and Diddy, we had Mads in the team. So
yeah,
it's only 2 players. But go on.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to bring up a few of the comments that we have starred throughout the stream, just so we can all get our opinions on it. So again, going back to the whole performance FC kind of narrative that is going out there at the moment. Dabster says, good performances are irrelevant. Results matter most. They're not there for a good reason. Conceded at least 2 goals in 16
absolutely.
From 21 games. I mean, Anil, because I keep saying it to you and everybody else, like, do you understand my point where I say if this was game 10 of the Premier League season, there is a lot of hope to be had. But, games are running out, and it's, we can't just keep saying we played really well and let's be hopeful of that, right? The games are running out.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you just got to be honest as well. It's like, as we say, good performance don't count for anything. We've got to get things going. And look, I also though have to say this, right, is that a lot of us wanted Steve Cooper out, and Steve Cooper is out, right? But be careful what you wish for, is literally what people say. For me, the one thing I will say is forget what even we as fans think. There is a fact, and that fact is he lost the dressing room. And you know he lost the dressing room because literally, as we know, a senior player went to top himself and said, this guy, you got to bin him. And that's why he got binned. So regardless of what we think, he had lost the dressing room, which implies it's going to happen. As I also showed you with that data, the underlying data was suggesting that we were getting away with it and that this was always going to happen at some point in time. And it has happened. But look, at the same time, yes, it's all true. And so I even said it. And just, when I play football in myself, real life, I actually played on Sunday. I think I told Logs. And basically, we did a Leicester. We played some really nice stuff. And I think we lost something like 8-3. So, oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, the other team just run on the counter-attack and score goals. You can shove your Harry Winks trying to play it out from the back up your arse when you do stuff to that. So it's 100% too. Yeah, I think he did go to top one of these players. That's what was reported, right? One of the players went to top.
Yeah.
We don't know who the player is. Yeah.
No, I think at the time we did speculate it was Vards, but actually, from everything I've read since, I think Vardy was very much, wouldn't say a fan of Cooper, but he's been reported to be very much willing to learn and listen to the guy, right? So I don't think it was Vardy, but I think since then people have speculated maybe Harry Winks or one of them players that was kind of in and out of the team despite fans' calls for them to start every game. You know what I mean? But who knows? It could Mavididi maybe, if he's probably not a senior player. So yeah, maybe Winks. I don't. We just don't know. Quick comment here, Josh. What's your opinion on this, mate? It is that man Wilfred Ndidi. Of course, Mads Hermansen is probably the biggest miss right now, but this guy's got to be second, hasn't he? Wilfred Ndidi, because he started both games with Sumari in Rude's first 2 games, 4 points. We've not picked up a single point. Same with Hermansen, but we've not picked up a single point since Wilfred Ndidi has been injured.
Yeah, I think that tells you everything. I don't think our midfield is the main issue, but I think having Wolf in the team can just help us out a bit more. And that's what I mean. We just got to be a bit more defensive. Yes, playing Sumari and Ndidi is seen as quite a negative defensive midfield, but we are a newly promoted side, and that's where we've got to go at some point. So people slag Puel off for having, Mendy and all them lot in midfield. But I remember they played them 3 against Chelsea and we won. So at times you have got to go defensive. And I think Winks has been pretty poor this season at times. I think the system under Rude isn't really favouring him too much. So I think when Ndidi is back, he's got to come in alongside Buba in midfield, and it's proven that it has worked, albeit very small sample size. But the games against the West Ham game, the Brighton game, despite, and that's the thing, that the performances in them games probably weren't even that good, because West Ham, we conceded so many shots, and Brighton, we came back obviously, but Ndidi's a man, and I think Ndidi's a player who the lads trust as well. I think they have a bit more trust in terms of going forward, because they know Ndidi's going to be sat back there waiting to clear it up. And obviously a bit earlier on this season, Ndidi can chip in with the odd goal and assist as well, which can always help.
Well, you've brought this up, Anil, mate. I mean, to be fair, when Wilf was getting criticism earlier in the season, I think it was down to where he was being played, right? He was being played a bit more advanced. But Anil, there is no doubt that defensively, this guy is just vital.
Top 1 percentile for clearances, blocks, top 5 percentile for tackles. I mean, that's what he does. He's doing it. So those stats are literally put him, I believe, in the top 2 CDMs in the league for the defensive work. And if you don't have that, then I'll tell you who's not making those challenges. Harry Winks. That's just the type of player that they are. So yeah, that's why he's there. It is a big problem. To be fair to him, look, indeed, he almost wasn't with us this summer. So I think, he was playing as a box crusher last time round. I actually do wonder if what Maresca would have done if he was still here. Anyway, that doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, that's just the fact that his stats, like I say, there's only really 2 players in our team this season who, forget even top 5 quality, are even mid-table quality, and that is Mads Hermansen and Ndidi. The rest of them, the stats don't lie. Like, Just my sort of closing point, because I've really got to head off now, but it's like I feel that what we're lacking are difference makers. Like, say Ipswich, if Ipswich get out of it, they sign Liam Delap, and people didn't realize it in the summer, but he is consistently, not just once or twice, consistently being a difference maker, right? Wolves have got Mateus Cunha, consistently a difference maker. Even Everton, I would say, in Ilman and NDI have got a player that can do something. With us, it might have been Hermanson, but he's out. El Canoes is potential. Buonanotte is potential, but they're not consistently doing it. And when we were in the relegation, so the Great Escape season, two players that stood out to me as being consistent, and they were a bit older, they were both Argentinian. One was Leonardo Ochoa, who got 11 goals that season. 11 goals is huge for a team that's trying to stay up. I think our top scorers on either 4 or 5. And the other one is the guy that's mentioned over there, one of my favorite players of all time. It was Esteban Cambiaso. He wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the most mobile, but the guy was switched on up here. And that experience, especially in that running, got us out of trouble. So we need someone like that. And if we don't, I think it's not too good.
Yeah, well, that brings today's video to a close. Josh, mate, give the channel a bit of a plug, mate. Is there a vlog out, or is it coming out? What's going on?
Yeah, there is a vlog out if you want to watch it. I'm not sure why you would, but yeah, but lots of vlogs.
It's great.
I'll be, I'll be at Fulham. I booked my tickets for Everton and Tottenham as well, so there'll be plenty to come in the next few weeks.
There we go. Sports to YouTube. Go and check it out. We will have a match preview for the Fulham game coming out on the channel tomorrow, probably around midday. That'll be out. That'll be uploaded. So keep an eye out for that one. Unfortunately, on Saturday, we got to do it all over again. Another match day live and all of that stuff. We've got to watch Leicester again. It is a shame. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Anil, for another quality bit of analysis. And we'll see you all next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
See ya.